Hello BookTube. Happy spooky season. I've been tagged in a number of videos recently, so we're going to get things started. First one today, the Get to Know Me in 25 Questions tag. I was tagged by Farrah over at Bookstalgic. Let's get started. There are 25 prompts. Of course, the first 24 are the questions. The last and final one, as always, is to tag other people. Here we go. Number 1, what's your channel about? It's all about me. In all seriousness, it's just about having a fun community, reading what I want, sharing with other people, try and intrigue other people, and then vice versa. I'll just see what everyone else is up to, what they're checking out, and see if what intrigues me. I'll discover something new. Okay. Number 2, how old are you? I'm 36 years old. Okay. Question 3. You see, some of these are pretty basic, so we're going to move pretty fast. Question 3, what's your relationship status? Currently single. Right now, I'm taking a break from people for a while, to be honest. I go to work, I come home, I kind of live like a monk by myself for a little bit. It suits me for now. Eventually, at some point down the line, that'll change. Okay. Occupation for number 4. Currently, I'm in the retail game. I am a shoe salesman. Okay. Number 5. Where are you from or / live? Right in the middle of New Jersey. That's where I grew up. It's called Monmouth County. If you ever look at a map of New Jersey, it's right smack in the middle. That's where I was born and raised. Let's see, right next to the town of Freehold. That's where Bruce Springsteen is from. So, and let's see, Springsteen's from there. I live right by the Battle of Monmouth, which was a big turning point in the Revolutionary War. And also, in addition to where I live too, or rather where I grew up, I was surrounded by different locations that had played a big part of music history as well. As a matter of fact, if you want to learn more about how the area where I grew up and was raised played a big part of music history, I got 2 good memoirs for you to read. Right over here. Let's see. First we got the recent memoir by Bruce Springsteen, Born to Run. And then also the guitar player's band, Little Stevie, or Steve Van Zandt, put out this one, Unrequited Infatuations. If you want to learn more about where I am or about where I grew up, these are two good things to read. Personally, these 2 guys, there's such a personal connection with them because, like I said, we were essentially born and raised in the same area, so we were both shaped by our environments. It's the easiest way to say it. So in each book, they talk about specific towns, and I've been there. I'm born and raised there. I know exactly what they're talking about. Like Springsteen, for instance, in his book, he talks about this church in Freehold, St. Rosa of Lima. He mentioned that in the book. I'm thinking, I've been to that church. I know a couple who live right across the street from that church. It's little things like that. I have such a personal connection with the locations and these people. Also, too, one other famous New Jerseyan I share a lot with too, the filmmaker Kevin Smith. He's from not from where I was born and raised. He was from not too far away. And like I said, once again, I've spent my whole life in these same areas too. It's so between Bruce, Little Stevie, Kevin Smith, and myself, we were all shaped by our environment. Speaking of Kevin Smith, over the years, I would get really annoyed when people, they think about New Jersey, they think about the Jersey Shore and The Sopranos. It would drive me up the wall. I would say no, New Jersey is nothing like that. If you want to know what New Jersey is like, watch the movie Clerks. I do realize upon saying that, that's not a whole lot better, but it's true. So there you go. All right, where do we leave off? Let's see. Number 6. Looking back, what would you have told your 10-year-old self? Let's see. Well, 2 things. One, one's a serious one. The other one's more of a comical one. So first thing I would have told my 10-year-old self, you know who the good ones are, and quite frankly, you know who the dirtbags are. Keep the good ones closer to you, and don't waste any time. Tell the dirtbags to piss off now. Okay. Trying to make a little light of a serious situation here. So anyway, the second one I said, which is more comical, by this time when I was 10 years old, my mother had introduced me to the band The Eagles, my all-time favorite bands, and one of their frontmen, Glenn Frey, was a big influence on me. So I would tell my 10-year-old self, Glenn Frey is going to die young, so if you ever get a chance to see the Eagles, make sure you do it as many times as you can. enjoy it. 7. Tell us about your family. Let's see. Well, I'm the first person, not first person, but my parents, they were born and raised like in Brooklyn, New York. My family's all from there originally, so I was born here in New Jersey. And let's see, yeah, there's a lot of teachers in my family. Like my mom and my aunt, uh, they taught in like a pretty dangerous area actually in the Stapleton projects in Staten Island. Like there's a little. When I was growing up, my mom used to joke around that she was protected in the hood. I could tell you a story. She wasn't kidding either. Like that's yeah. Some are pretty serious. Some are pretty humorous when you think of it. But that's a whole other video for another day. As I mentioned in the previous question, it's like tell my 10-year-old self I know who the good ones are. Well, sadly to say, a lot of the good ones have passed away. Like both of my grandparents are gone now. Both sides of my family, my mother and father's side, the grandparents are gone. Like the last one that passed was my paternal grandmother. She died a couple years ago at 98 years old. Let's see here. Yeah, Grandpa died back in 2009. Actually, he was Albert. I'm Albert II. I'm named after my grandfather. Let's see. Yeah. Let's see. A few years ago, yeah, my mother passed, and like my mother's sister had passed a few years ago too. Oh yeah. Sadly to say, a lot of the good ones have passed on sooner than expected. Well, not in the case of my grandmother. She was 98. You get the point. Number 8. What's your favorite holiday? Not for the reason you may think, but I'm going to say Halloween. Because, like, there's so many more and more holidays now, they seem so stressful. It's like everyone's like freaking out, they're hosting, they're prepping, they're freaking themselves out, trying to get stuff perfect and ready. Like Halloween's one of the few holidays where like it's all about fun. Like there's no stress to do anything. You do what you want. You just have a good time. That's what holidays should be. So, yeah. And also the movies are the best, in my opinion. There we go. Okay. Okay, number 9. You have no budget. What is your dream vacation? I was thinking about this too. A couple ideas like follow my favorite sports teams on the road. I think more if I had no budget, what I would do, I would like go back and look at like my family tree. Specifically, one person. It was like my mother's grandfather. I've always been told my mother's side of the family that like I am him. Like apparently like I'm exactly like him in every way. And I've seen pictures of him too. If you want to know what the man looked like, just look at me. I'm like exactly the same. Apparently, we even had the same personality. Like he loved music, and so do I. He spoke multiple languages. Honestly, I'm only pretty fluent in French, but like I can dabble in other languages too. Anyone else? And also, what I want to do, I want to like trace him back to Italy, where he was from. Because I heard like one story about him, like he was like the only boy in the family, so he was expected to be a priest. And so he went to the seminary. He was educated, like I said, spoke multiple languages, played an instrument, but he decided that like that life wasn't for him. So he came to America, and became a shoemaker. I think that's what you call a full circle moment right there. Yeah. So yeah, actually his name was Leonard. So yeah, if I had no budget, dream vacation, I would take part in like go back to my family roots and find out a little bit more. Number 10, name your biggest pet peeve. Rudeness. Simply put, no need to explain why. Just rude, obnoxious behavior. 11, excuse me. What book changed your life? Okay. This we gotta go back to my junior year in high school. Excuse me. Okay. Up until this point, I did not read a whole lot of fiction outside of what was in the school curriculum. Like, it was mainly a nonfiction and history reader my whole life. In junior year in high school, like I had an awesome teacher. Like he looked like a curmudgeon old guy, but he was actually one of the coolest people ever. And on the syllabus that year, he had us read a book which is very appropriate for now. It was Salem's Lot by Stephen King. Of course, like spooky season, a lot of people are talking about that in their videos. The movie recently came out on HBO Max. And yeah, until that point, never read Stephen King. I don't even think I saw a whole lot of his movies. Maybe just Shawshank Redemption and The Green Mile. But yeah, I read Salem's Lot, and I was just like mesmerized. I never read anything like it before. It was absolutely loved it. Completely changed, like as the question implies, it completely changed my life in terms of my fiction reading. I remember that same teacher too. He also had us read Slaughterhouse Five by Kurt Vonnegut. And even then, that was like one of the craziest things I ever read too. I'd never experienced anything like it. All right, where are we? Okay, 12. What simple invention improved the world? I have no idea. Like, I guess the wheel. The wheel's pretty simple. It's round. It rolls. There you go. So thank you, caveman. All right. 13. Favorite movies and TV shows. Okay. Start with TV shows. My favorite kind has always been like the half-hour sitcom. I love it. You're in, you're out. You get a good laugh. Goodbye. And even like two of my all-time favorite shows, Cheers. The show took place in the bar in Boston, and then of course I had the spin-off of Frasier. The character Frasier Crane from Cheers got his own spin-off. Like each show ran for 11 years, and I can honestly say those are the only two of the only shows where I can say I've watched every single episode. I just love those characters. And of course, over the years, The Office, Scrubs. Especially growing up in the 90s, that was like the 90s into the 2000s. That was like the era for sitcoms. Probably because you could milk them for all they're worth and then get money off the syndication. So I could go on Big Bang Theory, Seinfeld. I can name a whole bunch. And so yeah, the half-hour sitcom. And when it comes to movies, I'll give you two of them because I could be here forever with favorite movies. One's a classic one from like the 60s, and one's only a few years old. So they're called Past Lives and Requiem for a Heavyweight. Start off with Past Lives here. It's a Korean film. I think it's a Korean film, and the rights were bought by, the studio A24. I came across it I was on like Google Movies looking to rent a movie. I was looking more into A24. I like a lot of their movies, and this Past Lives came up. It looked like a straightforward drama, which I was like really in the mood for at the time. And also, most important, like I'm not very knowledgeable of like international movies and whatnot, but I can tell you this: I will pretty much watch anything that comes out of South Korea at this point. Like, whether it be like Squid Game, for instance, like a lot of the stuff streams on Netflix, and like it's just different, and it's like so engaging. So if I see the director's name is Korean, I'm in. It's that simple, and most of the time it turns out to be amazing. So yeah, so we have these two characters. Like we have this young boy and young girl in Korea. We start with them as young children, and like the girl and her family, they move to Canada. Then eventually she moves to the U.S. and he stays in Korea. And we follow them, and I think they never actually say their ages in the movie, but by the time we catch up with them in present day, I think it's safe to say like they're my age, like 36. Like you just like watch it as you go along, you can kind of figure it out. And so they start off as young children. The girl and her family move to North America. Then they kind of, he's like never gotten over her. So like they're like college age. He finds her on like Facebook. Next thing you know, they start like FaceTiming each other. And like they talk for like hours at a time, like FaceTiming each other. That gets the point that they're still never going to see each other. So they kind of part ways again. They live their own lives. Then they meet up again in like New York City. The girl lives there. She's married now, and he comes to visit her. So if you're like, from the time they were like 8 years old to 36, this is the first time they've seen each other in the flesh. It's all about like their relationship together. I don't want to build this up too much. Personally, I thought the ending was perfect. It got to me so hard. So yeah, Past Lives, couldn't recommend it more. I mentioned the classic one, Requiem for a Heavyweight. Well, first of all, it was written by Rod Serling. That Rod Serling of the Twilight Zone. So this one, it was originally a TV movie in the 1950s, and a few years later it got made into a feature film. It starred, talking about an all-star cast back in the day: Jackie Gleason, Mickey Rooney, Anthony Quinn, and Julie Harris. I hope I remember that name right. The beginning is quite unique too, because it starts off like first-person point of view with the camera. Like we see like this aging boxer. He's in the ring. He's just getting like pummeled. He's getting pummeled the movie came out in like 1961, 62. So he's just getting like the crap beat out of him. Like there's like this boxer, like first person teeing off on the camera. And this young boxer, the early 60s, he was an up and coming heavyweight named Cassius Clay. And it's really him. So like you see this young prospect Cassius Clay, who a few years later would win the heavyweight title. He shook up the world. And he would change his name to Muhammad Ali. So he's in the beginning of the movie. Check that out. There's actually a lot of famous fighters in that movie too. Like they're all sitting in the bar. And I get where we go up. So yeah, so this aging boxer, we start off like we begin with this fight. He gets pummeled. The doctor tells him, you know, one more fight, you're gonna go blind. So he can't fight anymore. So what's he gonna do? He's got to find a job now. And there's one scene like he's in the employment office and like he's chatting with Julie Harris. She's trying to help him out and like, it's heartbreaking. It's like here he is, like he's at this age. He's like he can barely talk. He's been punched so many times. And he doesn't know how to like answer some of the questions on like the application at the employment office. Like when the question was like, why did you leave your last job? He was like, what am I supposed to write down? The doctor told me I can't fight anymore. I could go blind. Oh, it's a tragedy, folks, too. And like if you're familiar with Rod Serling's work of the Twilight Zone, you know Rod Serling loved to get like close-ups of the actors' faces. Like they'll milk all that emotion for all it's worth. You see that on full display in this movie. Both are fantastic. All right, let's move on. I don't want to run too long here. Let's see here. Okay, 14. Describe yourself using 3 fictional characters. I tried my best to think of 3. I could only think of one. That is, like, Uva, from A Man Called Uva, or Ove. I'm still not sure how to pronounce the name. It's Swedish. But yeah, it's me. That's me as an old man in more ways than I care to admit. So, I'm not as rude as he is to some people, but essentially everything else is pretty much me. So that was easy. All right. What else? Okay. 15. What was your dream job? You know, as a kid, I've always, even through to today, I've always loved like talk shows. So like nowadays, like well, first of all, back in the day, like I used to love watching like the Tonight Show. Like my mother was a very disciplinarian, but she let me watch the Tonight Show, so I had to earn it though. Like I earned that spot, so I watched the Tonight Show. She'd go to bed, I stayed up a little later as a kid, watched Conan O'Brien. So like, I thought it was fascinating. You're a host, you get to have fun, chat with all these different people. Like nowadays, you don't really get that too much with the shows nowadays. They're too regimented. They're not as fun and loose as they used to be. But now you have podcasts, which to me, I think the podcast is the greatest medium ever made. So you can sit down with a guest for an hour, have a cool talk. So yeah, that would be my dream job, like a host or an interviewer. 16. If magic was real, what spell would you learn first? I would make dogs talk. Yeah, that's about it. Okay. All right. 17. Share a favorite childhood memory. There's the boardwalk in New Jersey. There's a town, Point Pleasant, New Jersey. I go there every summer with my cousins, my family, ride the rides, do like the arcade games, chill out on the boardwalk. There was a restaurant at the time that actually burned to the ground years ago. They had probably the best onion rings I've ever had. And so yeah, great childhood memories. So Point Pleasant, New Jersey. Okay, 18. What is your favorite social media platform? Easily Instagram. I use it primarily for entertainment. I follow my favorite bands, my sports teams, pro wrestling, and that's how I get all my information really. So yeah, Instagram, by far my favorite. Okay, so 19. If you could choose any book character, who would you spend the day with? That would be, I had to think about this one. I figured, I mentioned this book multiple times, Brooklyn by Colm Toibin. Like, about like the young Irish girl, she moves from Ireland to Brooklyn, New York to start a new life. And like, she has a relationship with this, as she calls it, the Italian fella named Tony. So like, I would hang out with Tony. In the book, like he's a diehard, like Brooklyn Dodger fan with baseball, and I'm a Yankee fan. So, Like, I think we'd have a lot of fun hanging out together. So we go to a Dodger Yankee game together. Of course, well, back then it would be the World Series, which the Yankees won most of the time. So yeah, I would enjoy that. All right, number 20. We're almost at the end. What's your spirit animal? I really don't know. Like, thinking, like, if you're into astrology and signs, I am a Taurus, and so I guess my spirit animal would be the bull. So I'm not really into astrology myself, but I do notice that a lot of the traits associated with Taurus, with being a Taurus, kind of describe me perfectly. So there you go. My spirit animal is a bull. Let's see, where am I? Okay, 21. What old person thing do you do? I still listen to the radio. Like, streaming services come and go, TV come and go. The radio's always there because it's free. Even now with the baseball playoffs, everyone's complaining about like the national coverage and whatnot. I hate national coverage too. These guys, they come together like once a year. They don't follow the teams. They don't know anything. So I listen to the Yankees radio station, like classic John Sterling and Susan Waldman. Even the Mets I'm listening to. There's a guy, Howie Rose. Like, I'd rather listen to them talk about baseball than talk about the home teams. So yeah, radio. Also, I still buy CDs, which is, nowadays this is an old person thing. But I have Spotify. I'm Spotify on constantly. But what I do, I listen to Spotify the way I would listen to a CD or an album. Like, I'll put on an album on Spotify, and I let it play to the end, just from start to finish. I don't jump around from song to song. So kind of like that old school mentality, even though I can listen to any song I want, but I'd rather listen to an album straight through. All right, almost there. 22. Do you have a hidden talent? I call this Italian, but I have these weird fingers. Like ever since let's see if I can point out. I see like my fingers kind of bend back a little bit. Like I'm not trying to do that. That's just, you ask me to extend my hand out, that's what happens. Like, my fingers just bend back like that. That's just, I have hyperextended fingers. I always had fun with those as a kid. I always creeped the hell out of people, even today. Like, my coworkers nowadays, even as an adult, they go, like, what's wrong with your fingers? So, I guess that's my hidden talent. I can freak people out with my fingers, my hyperextended fingers. Okay. 23. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? I have no idea. I don't even know where I'll be a year from now, too. Anything can happen, too. See? So, yeah. I'll let you know in 5 years. Okay. Okay. 24. There we go. Share an item and tell us its significance. Okay. I found a good item to share with you. It's actually connected to something else. So you're actually going to get 2 for 1 here. Okay. So I got to take you around my room for a second to show you. So there we go. Yeah. So yeah, select an item, tell us its significance. Just give me 1 second. I'll take you to the other side of my room here. Here we go. See this picture here? There we go. I actually got this from my grandparents' house. Like, if you haven't experienced this yet, you'll probably experience this at some point. Both grandparents pass away, the family comes in, everyone takes the personal effects they want. So this was the one thing I wanted. This is a picture. My grandfather had this picture from my whole life, and probably way before that. Right here, this is the ball player, Lou Gehrig. A little context. In recent years, like, there's been a lot of charities, like little, we call it, I guess, like social media challenges, and to raise money for like research in ALS. Well, ever heard sometimes that ALS is referred to as Lou Gehrig's disease? So if you didn't know that, this is Lou Gehrig right here. Like, one of the greatest ball players who ever lived. And like, sadly, when he was like 35, he was diagnosed with ALS, and he died a couple years later, which is pretty crazy to think about. He died when he was 37. Like, I'm gonna be 37 in a few months. It's kind of heavy to think that he died so young. You're in your early 20s. That's not gonna hit you. It's not gonna hit you how young he was then, but when you reach that age, it's gonna hit you hard now. Anyway, this is a very famous photograph from after he had to retire. The guy didn't miss a game for like 14, 15 years. And he was called the Iron Horse for a reason. So they had this day commemorating him. And over here, giving the big hug, is his old teammate. It's Babe Ruth. It's actually a famous photograph too. So my grandfather had this framed on his wall in his office for forever. So when it was time to clear out the house, like, I wanted this and I got it. I don't know if you can read this too, but my grandfather's handwriting is on the bottom too. This is like farewell, Lou Gehrig and Babe Ruth, circa 1939. Just like a little thing he wrote in pencil on there. Oh yeah, it's forever mine to have. Also, just to show you how like being a sports fan, you're not just having a favorite team. Here's how deep these connections go between them and your family. And speaking of Lou Gehrig, some memory with him that ties in with my mother too, which is I mentioned the 2-for-1 deal. So we're gonna get to that. One of my favorite memories of my mother right now. Okay, so now I mentioned Lou Gehrig before, so this was 2003. 2003. My family and I, we got to go to a Yankee game to our Yankee Stadium, and it was actually what would have been Lou Gehrig's 100th birthday. So, and part of that, we got to eat in the restaurant at Yankee Stadium too, and oh, it was fantastic. Like these beautiful murals of all the legends that have been in that organization. It was like a buffet type, like it was like a buffet. I remember I had chicken fingers and rice. Some of the best chicken fingers and rice I ever had. So, kudos to them. They know how to treat their guests. So anyway, when the game was over, we were going to go into the stadium, and that day it was Jason Giambi bobblehead night, bobblehead day rather. It was an afternoon game, and like you had to be 13 and under. I was 14, so whatever. So I got to see all these cool murals in the restaurant. That's an experience most people don't have. So I remember as we're going in, this really large security guard. Remember this? He goes up to my mother, and he just whispers to her, "How old's the boy?" Like, I don't know if you could hear me. He said, "How old's the boy?" And my mother had no idea what he was talking about, but as she would put it, she was a city girl who knew the game. So she whispered back, like, "He's 14. And the guard whispered to her, "Say 13. Surprise! Still got my bobblehead to this day. There we go, Jason Giambi. He's quite a character too. Quite a character and an amazing ball player too. In case you're wondering too, the game was actually rained out. It poured rain, the game was canceled. So yeah, and still one of my favorite experiences. Hang on a second. There we go, that's better. Okay, folks, let's bring this home now. For number 25, as always, the final prompt in these things is to tag other people. Let's see. There's a bunch of people I was going to tag that I love to follow, but they're already pretty, open about their lives and jobs and whatnot to us. So I figure I'll pick some other people. Let's see. You got Joe and Mary of Book Buds. They're from the tri-state area here, like myself, so I'm curious to hear what their answers are. See, Big Al. Big Al does BookTube. Those are my favorites. And Charles, CG Rated Books. It'll give him something to do on those night shifts. Let's see here. And Damien of First Pages. I love Damien's presentation. If you ever watch his videos, they look like a news report almost, like very unique. And like you do that style of a news report. One of his recent videos was about a review of The Handmaid's Tale. So you do a book review, something like The Handmaid's Tale, and do it in the form of like a news report. It was pretty cool. So it got me really interested to read the book. So it's on my TBR list. Let's see, John Must Read More was a favorite of mine. I discovered him. I came across him not too recently. We were both tagged together in the Beauty and Books tag, that video I did a while back. So of course, Kevin Toll Reads, always a favorite here, and of course, one and only Emily of the Linguist Library. I'm always curious to learn more about her too. All right. Anyway, folks, that wraps it up. I've got some reading to do. Both the Yankees and Mets are on tonight, so we'll say this is Tuesday. I'm filming this Tuesday morning, so let's see. I can enjoy some ball games tonight and on my day off, and also I got to read this chunky thing, The Secret Life of Houdini. The size of this thing, in very small print. I got to make headway on this thing. It's been fascinating so far. Okay. Anyway, happy October. Happy spooky season, people.